Well, let's start another journey here. We went ahead and left Sheboygan, and now we're heading south. And my first stop was a little place called Port Washington. Uh, just went ahead and tied up right here on this dock right here for overnight, and was going to keep going, or I'm going now. Now it's morning. Everything was pretty nice and quiet. I did have to pay to tie up here, but I got a break because they didn't have electric and water, which I didn't need to have electric and water. But I got to use also the showers and everything else, all the other facilities and stuff that they had here. They had a little area where you could sit around and chat and chit chat. But anyway, my next major stop is going to be Milwaukee. And while I was here, I did kind of notice that the lower unit still had some what looked to be oil in the water around the area of the lower unit. Now, Milwaukee happened to have a marina that was the same marina or the same company that worked on the putting on the lower unit back in Sturgeon Bay. So I figured I'm going to stop there and have them look at it real quick and see if they think there's something wrong with it, or it was just, oil that was put on there while they were working on it, put on the outside or something. But I'm going to have them check it just to be on the safe side. I don't want to keep going, even though it's a new unit. It's not an OEM product; it's an aftermarket. So, I'm not saying aftermarkets are bad or not. I'm just saying I just rather have it checked and make sure everything is running fine before I decide to go ahead and take off again. But anyway, here we are. We're heading toward, like I said, Milwaukee. And I'm going to head over to the marina there that happens to be the same company that did the work in Sturgeon Bay, and just kind of have them look at it real quick, see if they can tell me, if there's something wrong with it or not. And then we'll just move on from there. So here we are leaving, heading south. Eventually, after Milwaukee, the next big city is going to be Chicago, and then we're finally going to be out of the lakes, all three lakes. And I'm hoping that once I get into the rivers, like in Chicago, once I get into the Illinois River, the Mississippi River, Ohio River, and the Tom B. Waterway River, that things will run a lot smoother. It won't be as rough as far as water is concerned, waves and everything else, winds. And I'm hoping to run a little bit faster also, because I will be heading kind of like downstream. So I think as far as time-wise, it's going to be faster once I start heading down south on the river. I don't know until I actually get there whether it is better or not, but I'm going to find out. Here I am. I'm tied up at the dock here in Milwaukee. And the guys are not going to look at the unit till tomorrow, so I'm staying here the night. Good thing they didn't charge me to stay here overnight. But while I was here, there was a pontoon boat with musicians, and they play music as they're going down the river. And they do this once a month, I think they said, or something like that. And they have a bunch of kayakers following them everywhere they go down the river, playing their songs and everything. And they kind of go to different places. They'll go to a restaurant, they'll go to a bar, and then they'll play a few songs while they're there. the kayakers, if they want, they go ahead and get off and have a drink or whatever. It was pretty neat. A lot of kayakers following these guys around, and few boats, not too many, but you had 2 or 3 pontoon boats following them around also. So that was pretty interesting, pretty nice. But like I said, I'm here mainly because I'm having the engine looked at tomorrow morning. And hopefully they'll be able to look at it and say, yeah, you're okay, nothing wrong, go ahead and keep going. But we'll know. We'll find out tomorrow. Anyway, here I am leaving Milwaukee after they did look at the unit. Turns out it was still leaking oil. It was leaking oil. It had water and oil mixed into the lower unit. So they did flush it out, put new oil. But they wouldn't work on it because they were not Evinrude dealers. They said, I'm sorry, we can't do it. So I went ahead and just put new oil, and they sent me down the road, and I was heading south thinking, okay, I'll find me an Evinrude dealer somewhere. So after I left Milwaukee, this was one of my stops as I'm heading down south where I tied up overnight. It was just a ramp with a dock on there. There was a couple that was taking the money when boaters come in to pay, because they were charging, I guess, $10 to put their boat in the water. And it was right there next to that little building right there where they would set up, or they opened up, I guess. And they worked for the city, so it was kind of like their job to collect the rent and keep an eye on the place, keeping it out of the way and everything. I asked them about staying overnight, and they kind of said, well, I don't think anybody would say anything or bother me, so go ahead and stay. I don't think nobody's going to come up, and nobody did. Nobody showed up. Nobody said anything about whether I could or could not tie up. So I went ahead and this morning now and just had my breakfast and everything and untied and decided to move on. Where I was heading to was a place called Winthrop Marina, and that is right on the borderline of Illinois and Wisconsin. There's a place called a marina there that does service work, and it's called Skipper Bud's or something like that. So I decided to stop there and see whether they could do some work on the lower unit for me. When I got there, it turns out that they will not work on it because they're not Evinrude dealers either. So I asked him, I said, well, do you know where the closest place would be? And he said, well, the closest place that advertises as an Evinrude dealer, you just went past it. And that was Racine, Wisconsin, which I remember passing it. I didn't stop, but I do remember passing it. And they said, well, yeah, apparently there is an authorized Evinrude dealer there, Riverside Marina. But I didn't see that on the map, so I don't know why it didn't mention that, they were Evinrude dealer. But anyway, I went ahead and I actually ended up having to go up Michigan to Racine, which wasn't too bad. It was a 3-4 hour drive on the boat by water, and just end up having to go back up instead of continuing down. And I'm kind of glad I went there. It turned out that marina was a very, very nice marina. The whole staff was real nice and friendly. They all, kind of saw my situation and did try and help me out. They were Evinrude dealers, and they were going to go ahead. They couldn't work on it that same day that I got there. But they said they would have somebody, their mechanic, who is the actual Evinrude mechanic, used to work at Evinrude also. So they said he'd be the one who would look at it. But he was kind of tied up, so it was going to be a couple days before he could look at it. So they went ahead and took the boat and pulled it out of the water. And I was able to actually stay on board the boat even while I was on the trailer uh, for a couple of days till they figure out what was wrong and what their next plan of attack was going to be. So after, I don't know, a day or two, they went ahead and decided to open it up. Well, one, just check the oil and see whether it still had water in it again. So they did open up the port where the oil fill is and where it drains. And yeah, it was still it got full of water and oil again. So it was taking on water. And by the looks of where the leak was coming through, it looks like it was coming out like through the propeller shaft. So they said, well, that's not something that somebody could have screwed up while they were putting the lower unit on or off. So he can't say that the people in Racine did something wrong and didn't put the unit on right, because they didn't have to mess with the propeller shaft at all. And I asked him about it and thought, well, is there any way that you guys can just go ahead and fix the unit? He said, well, since it's an aftermarket one, we're not sure, what the specs are or if it's exactly the same or if it's any different than the OEM model. And since it's under warranty, the manufacturer is stating that if we open it, we're going to void your warranty. And if for some reason we can't fix it, then you're going to be in bigger trouble. So they suggest that they remove the lower unit, send it back to the manufacturer, which happens to be in Tampa, which is where I got it from. Have them rebuild or redo whatever they want to do with it or whatever, fix it, send it back to them, and they'll put it back on. Well, sounded like a good idea, like a good plan, I guess, for the day. So I went ahead and agreed to have them remove the unit, and we'll send it back to Tampa, Florida, and get it worked on. While I was talking to the manufacturer, they stated that it was going to take them 13, 14, maybe even 16, 17 working days to get it done. So they're talking about working on this thing for almost 3 weeks. Well, I started calculating. Here's the boat sitting on the trailer there at Riverside Marina in Racine, Wisconsin. It's a nice little marina. Everything was real nice. They seemed to have one of the best lounge areas that I had ever seen on my whole trip since making this trip. And I've got some pictures of it later on. I think if there was any downfall to this particular little marina is that they're limited in dock space. So, you probably do have to call ahead to see if you can get a dock space. But everything else, they're very friendly. They were very reasonably priced for the work that they did. And like I said, the boat was going to sit here for almost 3 weeks. So for me to stay at a hotel for 3 weeks, I calculated would going to cost me quite a bit. So I was better off to just fly home and stay home for a couple of weeks and then come back as soon as they got the boat ready. It was cheaper that way. I was able to find a round trip ticket to Tampa and back for under $300. And I thought, well, that's a lot cheaper than me going to a hotel and staying there for 2-3 weeks. So that's what I decided to do. I went ahead and booked a ticket out of Milwaukee. And I think I only waited like a day or two. And one of the owners of the marina here actually was going right by Milwaukee to go pick up a boat. So he agreed to go ahead and take me to Milwaukee, to the Milwaukee airport, and drop me off there. And then when I got there, I was able to get on the flight right away. This is the marina here, and here's the inside of their little area that they have, the lounge area. It's unbelievable, this little lounge area. Everything was so nice and clean, neat. A lot of old artifacts that they've collected, I guess, during the years. They have a library that you can look up of marine stuff there. Plenty of room for a lot of people, for even a large group of people if they want to come in. And since I was at first decided, well, I could even just stay here and sleep on one of the sofas here, but I thought, that it's just a big pain, and I'd probably be a lot more comfortable if I just went home and spend, 2 or 3 weeks at home and then just fly back. Since it was only $300, it wasn't that bad of a deal. I was better off. I thought, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So I went ahead and booked the flights. One little drawback when I booked the flights was because of the price, the cheapest price I could get. Excuse me. Turns out that the only flights they had was going from Milwaukee to Las Vegas. And then they were going to let me sit in Las Vegas for a 7-hour layover and then get on a plane and fly to Tampa. And I thought, well, I don't have much choice as far as I was going to fly anyway. And this was the cheapest flight I could get. For under $300, I really couldn't beat that deal nowhere else. Everything else was $600-700. They even have direct flights from Milwaukee to Tampa for $300, but all of those were already booked. And when you have such short notice like I did, you normally can't get that price. But anyway, I figured, well, I guess I'm going to Vegas for a 7-hour layover. And then I started off like at 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock in the morning. And my trip didn't end until almost midnight. It's when I got to Tampa. And it was a long, very long day, I guess. But anyway, I went ahead and did it. But as you can see, this lounge area is very beautiful. They even had a separate little like dining area where you can sit down and eat and all that. They had all the amenities that most other marinas also have, as far as, washer and dryers here. They had even supplies for washing and all kinds of stuff that you could use. The bathrooms, the showers were beautifully maintained. They looked like they were brand new and very clean. They had a lady come in, or one of their employees come in every night and go through every bathroom and clean it up and make it look real nice. So it was well worth the stay at this place. I enjoyed it the whole time I was here. The people were very, very friendly. I happened to meet both the owners of the place, and they were also very helpful. Not only were they helpful, but anything I needed, they were even willing to help me. One of the owners happened to be going to a hardware store when I needed some stuff, so he said, well, you're welcome to come along with me. So he even took me to 2 different hardware stores trying to find the part I needed. And we had no luck, so I ended up having to order it anyway. But anyway, he was very friendly, and he even offered to give me a ride to the hardware store. And the other owner was the one who actually drove me to the airport. And he was the same thing. He was going by the airport anyway to pick up another boat. So he had a trailer hooked up to his truck, and he was heading somewhere to pick up a brand new boat that they had just sold, and he had to bring it back. So he kind of took off for that. But As you can see, here's this very beautiful lounge area that they have. Their bathrooms were immaculate. I mean, I would highly recommend this. I mean, even an upside down wooden canoe. Huh, who would have thought? But anyway, I would highly recommend this little marina, and it's been different than all the other places I've been. And like I said, I think its only downfall to it is that they're limited in dock spaces, in how many dock spaces. They were full, which is, obviously good for them, because they're full all the time. But as a transit guy, you might not be able to get a marina here or a space here for overnight or whatever. Anyway, uh, here I am in Vegas, just kind of walking around, have a 7-hour layover. Wasn't sure whether I was going to go into the casinos and gamble or anything, but decided just to film a little part of it, just to say I was there. It it's just nothing but a big hole in the water where you drop your money, just like a boat. I wasn't gonna about to go play anywhere, cards or gamble or anything. I have gambled in the past, but I figured, hey, I got 7 hours. I'm not gonna sit here and lose for 7 hours, my money. Not only that, I had a budget I had to stay within, as far as making my trip. So I couldn't afford to leave all my money here and then not be able to finish my trip. So I kind of had to use some of my restraint and kind of stay away from the casinos. I did walk into them, got to see them. Very beautiful casinos. They have them very well laid out and very nice. Everybody's pretty friendly, Of course, everybody wants you to play with their, at their casino. So they're very friendly and very talkative. Here's a little area where they made it look like, like New York City and everything. And that was a pretty interesting little place to see. Even the Statue of Liberty was there, and the big towers and the buildings and everything so close together. That was nice. This is actually starting the boardwalk, but anyway. Well, they called me and let me know my boat was ready to go. So I end up flying back to Racine, Wisconsin, and they went ahead and put the boat in the water and they tested it, and they said it seems to be doing okay. They did just take the lower unit off, send it to the manufacturer, which happened to be in Tampa, and then send it back to them, and then they went ahead and put it on, and it was very reasonably priced. Okay, I was impressed, even though they had the boat there for 3 or 4 weeks. I didn't pay a whole lot. I think, I had a fair price, is what they charged me for doing the work. So it kind of made me feel like, hey, there's still some hope. There's still some good guys in marinas that, even though you're stranded and you need help, they really didn't take advantage of me like some other places did. So in a way, it kind of, like I said, there's good people and there's bad people. Well, these guys were one of the good people, I can tell you that. Their service was excellent. Everything, everybody was nice and friendly. Anything I needed, they were always willing to bend over backwards to help me. I'm going to miss the little marina, unless you can see these are the slips that they have. And like I said, they were kind of limited in the slips. But as you can see, they're all full. So, and that's good for them, because obviously they got a steady income coming in by filling up all the slips. But for transits, it's kind of hard for you to find a spot here. But I would definitely check, because they are very, very nice people to deal with. They're very reasonably priced as far as the work that they did for me. And they do work on even the large boats, on diesel engines and all of that. They have a travel lift if needed, and they have full service in the back. I didn't show all of it, but in the across the street from here, they have probably 2 or 3 blocks that they own, and it's all warehouse space where they warehouse some of these boats during the winter. And then they also use them, and then they have a mechanics area where they do all kinds of work, everything from pulling out engines and rebuilding them and putting them back in. So they can do any kind of work, not just small outboard motor work like I had done. And it turned out to be a very pleasant experience, even though obviously, it cost me more money to get this thing done, taken care of, and fixed. I was reasonably happy with the work that had been done and the way that I was treated while I was here. So if anyone ever needs to stop by and just say hi to these guys, hey, go for it. It's Riverside Marina in Racine, Wisconsin, and great little marina. I would definitely recommend it to my friends and other people that I run into. And thank you guys, hey, for all the help, and hopefully maybe someday we'll see each other again. Anyway, let's move on. We're leaving Racine here, and of course my next major stop from here, I want to be Chicago, but I'm still probably a day or two maybe away from Chicago. And I just can't wait to get there. It's like I said, I'll be out of the lakes. It's the big thing. The lakes are probably, one of the toughest part of the trip so far, mainly because the weather changes so quick that it's hard to say, are you having a good day or are you going to have a good day? And a lot of times when you're in the little rivers and the little coves, this is the way it looks. And then you say to yourself, hey, it must be pretty nice to get out there. But when you get to the lake, it's entirely different. A lot of wind. I mean, you get a gust of wind coming in or something like that. The wakes start picking up. And they start off at 1 foot, then they climb up to 2 feet, and by the time you know it, you're sitting in 4 or 5 feet of waves. And it gets pretty nasty by the time you get there. So you have to watch what you're doing, and be careful when you're out on the lakes. That's all I got to say. So far, my biggest experiences as far as weather-wise or crossing water has been Chesapeake Bay, which is very big bay. Took me a while. There was times when I had to run into a little creek or run into a little cove just to get out of the weather. So Chesapeake Bay, and the 3 lakes, Lake Erie, Lake Huron, and Lake Michigan, especially up on the northern part of Lake Michigan, around Mackinac Island, Mackinac City, Mackinac Bridge. That was a tough crossing. It took me, I think I spent 3 days in Mackinac City for good weather. Then I went halfway across the lake to Beaver Island, where I had to spend another 3-4 days there for good weather before I could get all the way across to the Wisconsin side of Lake Michigan, where I was going to Sheboygan to meet my 2 uncles there. But all in all, finally did it, and kind of glad that I'm almost done with the lakes. I'm hoping once I get into into Chicago and into the rivers, that it'll be a lot easier, a lot quicker, and I'll be able to travel without any of this wind and wave actions that I keep getting while I was on the lakes. I don't know yet for sure, but I'm going to find out one way or the other. But here we go. Heading south toward Chicago. Probably going to have one or two more stops, and then after that we will start going down river on the Illinois River, and hopefully, you know, pick up a little bit more better speed, because the water should be a lot calmer, and we'll be going downriver, which is going with the current, so it should be helping us out. Maybe even give me a little bit better gas mileage. I'm not gonna know till I get there, but like I said, this is part of the journey, and we're getting ready to end this part right here, and we'll be, hopefully next time, on the next video anyway, we should be able to say that we are now coming into Chicago, and going through Chicago. Actually, that was one of the things that everybody said must do, is to drive through Chicago on the river, because it is a beautiful sight. So I'm expecting to do that too. So and shortly after that, we'll be filming from inside the rivers, and seeing what kind of weather conditions we have there.